Maria had always worked hard. She was a waitress at a small diner on the edge of town. The diner was a quiet place, not too busy, but it was always filled with the smell of freshly cooked food and the sound of soft conversation. People came and went, but there was one thing Maria always knew: she was there to serve others. And it wasn't just about the food. Every day, Maria served her customers with a warm smile and a kind heart. She didn't have much, but she made sure that everyone who came through the door felt like they were important. The diner was a place where people came not only to eat but to find comfort in the small, simple things of life. And Maria was the heart of it all. But there were two children who stood out from the rest. Jaden and Maya were orphans. They didn't have a mother or father, and they didn't have many friends. Every day, they would walk to the diner after school. At first, they just sat quietly in a corner, waiting for someone to notice them. They didn't ask for anything, but their eyes spoke volumes. They were hungry. Not just for food, but for kindness, for care, for someone to show them that they mattered. Maria noticed them right away. She could see the sadness in their eyes and the way they looked at their empty plates when they ate. They never asked for anything special, but Maria knew what they needed. So, without a second thought, she began to feed them. Every day, she made sure they had a hot meal, something that would fill their stomachs and their hearts. She didn't care that she didn't have much herself. Maria believed that kindness wasn't about what you had, but what you were willing to give. At first, Jaden and Maya were shy. They didn't know how to accept the kindness. They had learned to take care of themselves, to survive on their own. But slowly, they started to trust Maria. They began to talk to her, sharing stories of their day at school and their dreams for the future. Maria listened to every word. She never judged them. Instead, she encouraged them, offering words of support and comfort. "Don't worry," she would tell them. "One day, things will get better. You have the strength to make it happen." For Maria, feeding Jaden and Maya wasn't just about filling their stomachs. It was about giving them hope, something they had lost long ago. Every meal she served them was a reminder that there was still goodness in the world, that even in the hardest of times, someone cared. Over time, the children began to rely on Maria more and more. They didn't have anyone else, but they knew they could count on her. Maria's small acts of kindness became a daily routine. She would greet them with a smile and serve them their meal with a quiet sense of purpose. The diner had become their safe space, a place where they could just be children, away from the hardships of life. Maria's kindness didn't stop there. She knew that Jaden and Maya needed more than just food. They needed a sense of belonging, a sense that someone believed in them. So, she made sure to ask them about their lives, their hopes, and their fears. She didn't push them to open up, but she always made sure they knew she was there for them. One day, Jaden looked up at her and said, "Maria, why do you always help us? We don't have anything to give you in return." Maria smiled softly and sat down beside him. "You don't need to give me anything, Jaden. Helping you is all I need. You are important, and that's enough for me." Maya, who had been quietly listening, nodded. She had never heard anyone say something so simple yet so powerful. For the first time in a long while, she felt a sense of peace. As the weeks passed, the children began to visit the diner more frequently. They no longer sat in silence. They laughed and joked with Maria, sharing the little things that made them happy. Maria's life was far from perfect, but the joy of helping these two orphans made it feel worth every effort. Jaden and Maya may have come to the diner for food, but they left with something far more valuable. They left with hope. Hope that someone cared, hope that they weren't alone in the world. And that hope was something that would stay with them for the rest of their lives. As the years went by, the connection between Maria and the two orphans, Jaden and Maya, only grew stronger. The children, once shy and withdrawn, were now confident and hopeful, thanks to the love and care Maria had shown them. Every day after school, they would walk to the diner, eager to see their dear friend. The small booth near the window had become their usual spot, where they would sit and talk for hours, sharing stories, laughter, and dreams for the future. Maria had always believed that even the smallest acts of kindness could change a person's life. And she saw the proof of that every time she looked at Jaden and Maya. They had grown from quiet, lonely children into young adults with plans, ambitions, and a bright future ahead of them. They still faced challenges, of course, but Maria's constant support had given them the strength to face those challenges head-on. As Jaden and Maya entered high school, they began to focus more on their studies. They dreamed of going to college, of making something of themselves. Jaden wanted to become an engineer, and Maya dreamed of becoming a teacher. They knew their path would not be easy, but they also knew they had something special, someone who cared for them deeply. Maria never asked for anything in return for her kindness, but she always encouraged the children to follow their dreams. She would tell them, "You can do anything if you work hard and never give up. I believe in both of you." Jaden and Maya took those words to heart. They studied hard, participated in school activities, and did everything they could to prepare for their future. Every success, no matter how small, was a victory they shared with Maria. She was there for every school play, every sports event, and every exam. She celebrated their accomplishments as if they were her own children. But there were moments when Maria couldn't help but worry. Despite her encouragement, she knew that life was often hard, especially for those who had no family. She sometimes wondered what would happen to Jaden and Maya when they graduated. Would they be able to afford college? Would they be able to succeed on their own? The world outside the diner was big and uncertain, and Maria couldn't always protect them from it. One evening, as the sun began to set, Jaden and Maya sat with Maria in the diner, talking about their plans for the future. They had just finished their final exams and were looking forward to graduation. Maria smiled at them, her heart full of pride. She had always known they were capable of great things, but seeing them so close to their dreams made her feel a deep sense of joy. "You two are going to do amazing things," Maria said, her voice full of emotion. "I can already see the bright futures ahead of you." Jaden smiled, but there was a hint of uncertainty in his eyes. "We wouldn't be here without you, Maria. You gave us the chance to dream. You gave us a family when we had none." Maya nodded in agreement, her eyes shining with gratitude. "You've always been there for us, Maria. We want you to know that we'll never forget what you've done for us." Maria felt a lump in her throat as she looked at the two young adults who had once been lost and lonely children. It was hard for her to accept their thanks. In her mind, she had only done what anyone with a kind heart would do. But she could see the truth in their words. Her kindness had changed their lives, and now, they were ready to change the world. Over time, Jaden and Maya graduated from high school, their hard work paying off. Jaden received a scholarship to a prestigious university, and Maya was accepted into a teacher's program. Their futures were bright, and Maria couldn't have been prouder of them. She knew they would go far, and she believed in them with all her heart. But even as they succeeded, they never forgot the woman who had given them a chance when no one else did. Maria had always been there for them, offering love and support, and now it was their turn to give back. They knew they had to work hard to repay her kindness, but they also knew they couldn't do it alone. One afternoon, after Maya had received a letter of acceptance from a college, the two of them sat down with Maria at the diner. They wanted to make a promise. "Maria," Jaden began, "we're not just going to leave and forget about you. We're going to make sure you know how much you mean to us. Your family to us." Maya added, "We've made plans, Maria. Big plans. And you're going to be a part of them, no matter what." Maria smiled at them, touched by their words. "You've already given me everything I could ever want. Your happiness, your future, that's all I need." But Jaden and Maya were determined. They knew they owed Maria more than just their words, they owed her a future filled with love and care. And so, they began to make their plans in secret, working together to find a way to repay the woman who had given them everything. Life had been kind to Maria. She watched as Jaden and Maya grew into young adults, each with dreams and goals of their own. The diner was busier than ever, but Maria always found time to spend with the children who had come to mean so much to her. The bond they shared had grown stronger with each passing year. Yet, Maria couldn't help but feel a sense of worry as their graduation approached. What would happen to them when they left for college? Would they be able to handle the challenges of adulthood? Her questions were put on hold one bright morning when something unusual happened. Maria was just finishing up her shift when a letter arrived at the diner. It was addressed to her, and the handwriting was neat and elegant. She didn't recognize the name of the sender, but she opened it anyway, curious. Inside was a simple invitation: "You are cordially invited to the annual philanthropy gala, hosted by the Global Giving Foundation." Maria frowned as she read the letter again. She had never heard of the foundation. Why would they invite someone like her, a simple waitress from a small town? She placed the letter on the counter and went back to cleaning the tables, unsure of what to make of it. But as the day went on, she couldn't shake the feeling that there was something important about this letter. It was as though something big was about to happen. Later that afternoon, when Jaden and Maya came to visit, Maria decided to tell them about the letter. She was still unsure about it, but she needed to share it with someone. "Maria, what is this?" Maya asked, looking at the elegant letter in her hand. She had seen her share of invitations in the past, but this one felt different. "Are you going?" Maria shook her head. "I don't even know what this is." "A gala? Philanthropy? I'm just a waitress. Why would they want me there?" Jaden leaned in to read the letter. "Maybe they want to honor you for everything you've done for us. You've helped more people than anyone realizes, Maria. You deserve recognition." Maria laughed softly, shaking her head again. "I'm not looking for recognition, Jaden. I just wanted to help you too." "But you've done so much more than that," Maya said with a gentle smile. "Maybe it's time people saw that." Maria wasn't convinced, but the idea of being honored for her kindness was something she had never imagined. She wasn't someone who sought attention. She was content in knowing that she had made a difference in the lives of the people she cared about. But still, there was something tugging at her heart. Perhaps it was time to see what this gala was all about. The day of the event arrived, and Maria found herself standing in front of the mirror, adjusting the simple but elegant dress she had borrowed from a friend. She didn't have many fancy clothes, but she felt a bit out of place in this new world. The gala was being held in a grand ballroom downtown, a far cry from the cozy little diner she had spent most of her life in. Jaden and Maya insisted on accompanying her, offering to drive her there in a car that was far too expensive for Maria's taste. They had both dressed in their finest clothes, looking every bit the successful young adults they had become. Maria was proud of them, but she also felt nervous about the event. She wasn't used to such luxury. As they arrived at the venue, Maria was amazed by the grandeur of it all. The building was massive, with large chandeliers hanging from the ceiling, and guests in fine suits and gowns moving through the lobby like something out of a movie. She felt out of place, but Jaden and Maya reassured her, telling her that she belonged here just as much as anyone else. Inside the ballroom, she was greeted by a host who led her to a seat near the front. Maria could barely keep her composure as the event began. Speeches were made, awards were handed out, and the night continued on with laughter and applause. Maria couldn't help but feel like an outsider. She was just a simple woman who had always worked hard and helped those in need. What did she have in common with these wealthy individuals? But then, something unexpected happened. The host of the gala called her name. "Maria Williams," he announced, a woman who has touched the lives of many and continues to give selflessly. The room went silent for a moment, and Maria's heart raced. She stood up, unsure of what was happening, as all eyes turned to her. Jaden and Maya smiled proudly from their seats. Maria had no idea what to do. She had never been the center of attention before, and the spotlight felt overwhelming. With trembling hands, she walked to the front of the room. The host handed her a beautiful plaque, engraved with her name, and began to speak. Maria Williams has done more for this community than anyone could imagine. Through her kindness, she has lifted the spirits of those around her, proving that even the smallest acts of love can change the world. Maria's eyes filled with tears as the crowd erupted into applause. She felt a warmth in her chest, not from the recognition, but from the love and gratitude that filled the room. She had always believed that kindness was its own reward, but tonight, she realized that sometimes, the world does notice. And sometimes, it rewards you in ways you never expected. The night of the gala remained in Maria's mind long after she returned to the diner. The plaque she had received was now placed carefully on a shelf at home, a reminder that kindness could lead to recognition, even when it was least expected. But Maria still struggled to believe she was truly deserving of such praise. After all, she had only done what felt right, helping those in need. There was no grand plan behind it, no expectation of reward. Yet, the night had left her with a strange sense of fulfillment. Back at the diner, things continued much the same. Maria worked hard, serving meals, listening to her customers' stories, and making sure Jaden and Maya always had a place to sit when they visited. The two young adults had stayed close to her even after the gala. They were busy with their own lives, Jaden with his studies and Maya with her teaching career, but they never forgot their promise to her. They had something special planned, something they had been working on for months. Maria had no idea what it was, but she could see the glint in their eyes whenever they spoke about it. They were excited, and their energy was contagious. The love and admiration they had for her were evident in every conversation. Maria couldn't help but feel both proud and humbled by the way they looked up to her. One afternoon, after a particularly busy lunch rush at the diner, Jaden and Maya came in together. They had big smiles on their faces, and Maria noticed that they seemed more eager than usual. There was something in the way they acted that made her curious. "Maria, we need to talk to you," Maya said as she sat down across from Maria at the counter. Jaden nodded, and they both looked at her with bright eyes. Maria wiped her hands on her apron and sat down with them. "What's going on, kids? You both look like you're keeping a secret." Jaden laughed softly. "Well, in a way, we are. But it's not just a secret, it's a surprise. We've been planning something for you." Maria raised an eyebrow. "A surprise? What kind of surprise?" Maya smiled. "It's something we've been working on for a while. You've always given to others, Maria, but now it's time for us to give something back to you. You've helped us become who we are today, and we want to make sure you have the chance to live your best life." Maria shook her head, not understanding. "I don't need anything. Just seeing you two happy is all I could ever want." Jaden reached across the table and took her hand. "We know that, Maria. But this isn't about just making you happy, it's about giving you the opportunities you deserve. You've always put others first, and now it's time for you to be first." Maya's eyes sparkled with excitement. "We've been working with some people to make sure you can take a break, Maria. You've worked so hard your whole life. Now it's time for you to do something for yourself, something you've never had the chance to do." Maria felt a lump in her throat. She was touched by their words, but at the same time, she felt undeserving. She had never thought about doing something just for herself. Her entire life had been about taking care of others, her customers, the children, Jaden and Maya. She couldn't imagine a life where she didn't put others first. "Maybe I don't understand," Maria said softly, "but you know I've never asked for anything. I'm happy with what I have. I don't need anything more. Jaden smiled warmly. We know, Maria. But this isn't about needing something, it's about showing you how much we care. You've always been there for us, and now we want to be there for you. Maya nodded. We've arranged for you to take some time off. We've found a place where you can relax, a place where you can focus on yourself for a change. It's a beautiful spot, with nature all around. It's everything you deserve. Maria looked at the two of them, unable to find the words to express how she felt. They had planned this behind her back, worked with people she didn't know to make this happen. It was overwhelming, and she felt both grateful and humbled. You don't have to do this, Maria said, her voice shaking slightly. You've already done so much for me just by being here, just by being part of my life. But this is our way of showing you that you mean everything to us, Maya replied. You've given us more than we could ever repay, Maria. Now it's our turn to give back. Jaden stood up and placed a hand on her shoulder. We've already taken care of everything. All you have to do is say yes. Maria sat quietly for a moment, taking in their words. She had always been the one giving, the one helping, the one who never asked for anything in return. But now, it was her turn to receive. The thought was unfamiliar, but it felt right. She had worked so hard for so many years, and perhaps, just maybe, it was time to take a step back and do something for herself. Okay, Maria finally said, her voice soft but filled with emotion. I'll go. I'll take the time off. Thank you both. I don't know what to say. Jaden and Maya both smiled, their eyes filled with happiness. You don't need to say anything, Maria, Maya said. Just enjoy it. You deserve it more than anyone. And with that, Maria realized that her life had changed in ways she had never imagined. For the first time in a long while, she was going to focus on herself, to take a step back and enjoy the simple pleasures of life. It was a gift she never expected, and one she would cherish forever. The morning after Jaden and Maya had shared their surprise with Maria, everything felt different. There was a sense of excitement in the air, a quiet thrill that filled the diner. Maria had never imagined that her life could change so quickly. She had always lived simply, never expecting anything more than the joy of helping others. But now, she was about to embark on a new chapter, one where she would finally take time for herself. The days leading up to her departure were filled with a mix of emotions. Maria couldn't believe it. She had spent so many years caring for others, always putting their needs ahead of her own. Now, it was her turn to relax, to do something just for her. It was a strange thought, almost foreign to her. She was used to giving, not receiving. On the morning she was to leave, the sun was just beginning to rise, casting a soft glow over the sleepy town. Maria stood in front of her mirror, looking at herself. She had packed a small suitcase, nothing extravagant, but enough for a few days away. The place Jaden and Maya had arranged for her was located on the outskirts of town, surrounded by nature. It was a place where she could clear her mind and recharge, something she hadn't done in years. As she stood there, she felt a mixture of excitement and guilt. How could she leave the diner behind for a few days? She knew the customers depended on her, and she didn't want to let anyone down. But deep down, she knew this was something she needed. It wasn't about selfishness, it was about taking care of herself so she could continue to help others. After a long moment of hesitation, Maria took a deep breath and grabbed her suitcase. She walked out of her small apartment and headed to the car where Jaden and Maya were waiting. Both of them smiled at her as she approached, their eyes shining with excitement. Ready for your adventure? Maya asked, her voice full of energy. Maria smiled, though there was still a hint of nervousness in her expression. I think so. It just feels strange. Jaden laughed softly. We know it's different, but you deserve this, Maria. You've given so much to everyone else. Now it's time for you to give to yourself. With that, they drove off, leaving the familiar streets behind. The road stretched out before them, winding through the countryside. The further they drove, the more Maria felt her worries begin to melt away. The tall trees and open fields were a welcome sight, and she found herself relaxing with each passing mile. After a while, they arrived at a small cottage tucked away in the woods. It was peaceful, far from the hustle and bustle of the diner. The quiet surrounding was exactly what Maria needed. She stepped out of the car, taking in the fresh air. The sounds of birds chirping and leaves rustling in the wind made her feel at ease. "This is it," Maya said, opening the door to the cottage. "We've made sure everything is perfect for you." Maria took a deep breath as she stepped inside. The cottage was simple yet beautiful. The soft glow of the morning sun filtered through the windows, casting warm light on the cozy furniture. There was a small fireplace, a bookshelf filled with books, and a window that overlooked a peaceful garden. She smiled, feeling a sense of calm wash over her. This was exactly what she needed. A place to rest, to breathe, to be alone with her thoughts. For the first time in a long while, she felt like she could just be herself without any pressure. As the day went on, Maria took the time to explore the surrounding area. She walked along a path that led to a nearby stream, the sound of the water flowing gently through the rocks. She sat on a bench by the water, enjoying the quiet solitude. The world seemed so far away, and for once, she didn't feel the weight of the world on her shoulders. Later that afternoon, Jaden and Maya returned to the cottage with a picnic basket. They spread a blanket on the grass and sat down to enjoy the food they had brought. The three of them laughed and talked, sharing stories and enjoying each other's company. Maria couldn't remember the last time she had felt so free, so at peace. As the sun began to set, the sky turned a soft pink, and the air grew cooler. Maria stood up and walked to the edge of the garden, looking out over the rolling hills. She felt a sense of gratitude for the life she had lived and the people who had become a part of it. She had always been there for others, but now, in this moment, she realized how much they had given her in return. "I never thought I'd get to experience something like this," Maria said softly, turning to Jaden and Maya. "Thank you. Thank you both for making this happen." Maya smiled warmly. "You deserve it, Maria. You've given so much to everyone else. Now it's time for you to take something for yourself." Jaden nodded. "This is just the beginning. We're going to make sure you have many more moments like this, Maria. You've earned it." As the evening wore on, Maria felt a deep sense of peace that she had never known before. She had spent her life taking care of others, but now, she was taking care of herself. And it felt right. She didn't know what the future held, but for the first time, she was excited to find out. Maria had never felt more at peace. The days at the cottage were slow and calming, with nothing to worry about but the gentle flow of time. The constant noise of the diner, the demands of work, and the responsibilities she had carried for years seemed to fade into the background. It was as though the world had become a softer place, where she could finally breathe. She spent her days walking along the peaceful stream, reading books she hadn't touched in years, and simply enjoying the beauty around her. Jaden and Maya checked in regularly, bringing her meals or taking her out for short trips to explore the surrounding countryside. It was a simple life, but it was one that Maria had never allowed herself to experience. Each moment felt like a gift she had never expected. One evening, as the sun set behind the hills and painted the sky in shades of pink and orange, Maria sat on the porch of the cottage, sipping a warm cup of tea. She had always loved watching the sunset, but now, it felt different. There was a deeper meaning in the way the sky changed colors, a sense of hope she hadn't felt in a long time. She felt content, more so than she had ever been. But just as she began to settle into the quiet routine she had come to cherish, the sound of a car pulling up to the driveway caught her attention. Maria looked up, her brow furrowing slightly. Jaden and Maya had told her they would be gone for the day, so she wasn't expecting anyone else. She stood up from her chair and walked toward the door, curious about the visitor. When she opened the door, she was surprised to see a tall man standing on the porch. He was dressed in a neat suit, with an air of professionalism about him. He looked like someone who belonged in a busy office, not in this quiet corner of the world. Maria blinked, unsure of who he was or why he had come. "Good evening," the man said with a warm smile. "Are you Maria Williams?" Maria nodded slowly, still unsure of who he was. "Yes, I am. Can I help you?" "My name is Robert Harrison," the man said, extending a hand toward her. "I represent the Global Giving Foundation." At the mention of the foundation, Maria's eyes widened. She remembered the invitation she had received months ago, the one that had led her to the gala. She had never expected it to lead to anything else, but now, she was standing face to face with someone from that very organization. I'm not sure what this is about," Maria said, feeling a mix of confusion and curiosity. Robert smiled again, as if he had expected her reaction. "I understand. It's not every day that someone like you is recognized for their kindness. The Global Giving Foundation was deeply moved by your story, Maria. Your selflessness, your dedication to helping others, it's something that truly inspired us. And we believe it's time for you to receive something in return." Maria took a step back, still processing his words. "I don't understand. I didn't do anything special. I just helped people because it felt right." Robert's expression softened. "You've done more than just help, Maria. You've given hope to those who had none. You've built a legacy of kindness that has touched the lives of many. And now, it's time for you to see just how much of an impact you've made." Maria shook her head, overwhelmed. "I've never thought of it that way. I never wanted anything in return." Robert nodded. "And that's exactly why you deserve something in return. The Global Giving Foundation has decided to honor you for your incredible contributions. You've been chosen for a very special program, one that will allow you to continue your work of giving, but in a much larger way." Maria's heart began to race. She wasn't sure what was happening, but she could feel that this was something important, something that would change her life forever. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. "What kind of program?" Robert's eyes sparkled with excitement. "It's a unique opportunity, Maria. The foundation has arranged for you to become an ambassador for kindness. You'll travel to different communities, offering support and encouragement to those who need it most. You'll work alongside other like-minded individuals who share your passion for helping others. And we'll make sure you have everything you need to continue your mission." Maria stood still, her mind racing. She had never imagined anything like this. She had spent her life helping in small ways, making sure that the people around her had what they needed. Now, she was being asked to step into a role that was bigger than anything she had ever dreamed of. For a moment, she couldn't find the words. All she could do was look at Robert, trying to comprehend what he had just told her. "I don't know if I'm ready for something like that," Maria finally said, her voice soft. "I've never thought of myself as someone who could lead something so big." Robert smiled kindly. "Maria, you've already been leading in your own way. The foundation is simply offering you the platform to reach more people, to inspire more lives. You have the heart for it. All you need to do now is accept the opportunity." Maria took a deep breath. She thought about everything that had led her to this point, the years of helping others, the bond she had formed with Jaden and Maya, the unexpected recognition she had received. It was all part of something larger than she could have imagined. She had always believed that kindness was its own reward, but now, she was realizing that her work could touch lives in ways she never dreamed possible. "I accept," Maria said, her voice steady. "I'll do it." And in that moment, Maria realized that her life was about to change forever. The journey she had begun all those years ago, when she first helped those two orphaned children, had led her to this moment. And now, she was ready to take the next step, to continue spreading kindness in a way she had never imagined. The world was waiting, and Maria was ready to make her mark. The following weeks were a blur of excitement and anticipation for Maria. The news of her new role as an ambassador for kindness had spread quickly, and with it came a whirlwind of activity. The Global Giving Foundation had arranged for her to travel to different communities, bringing her message of hope and support to those who needed it most. The thought of leaving her quiet life at the cottage seemed unreal, but Maria knew deep down that this was a chance she couldn't pass up. Jaden and Maya, who had been with her every step of the way, couldn't have been more proud. They had been the ones to set everything in motion, helping Maria realize that her life's work was more than just the small acts of kindness she had done at the diner. Maria's heart was full, knowing that she had inspired these two young adults to believe in the power of giving. Now, she was about to do the same for people all around the world. Maria's first stop was a small town on the outskirts of the city. The people there had heard about the foundation's work and were eager to meet the woman who had touched so many lives with her selfless acts. When she arrived, she was greeted by a crowd of smiling faces. The town hall was filled with people, young and old, all eager to hear Maria speak. Standing at the podium, Maria looked out at the crowd, her heart pounding. This was no longer the quiet diner she had known, this was a room full of people who needed her, who needed to hear her message of hope and kindness. She took a deep breath and began to speak. "I never imagined that my simple acts of kindness would lead me here," she said, her voice steady. "I've always believed that helping others is the right thing to do, but I never thought it would change my life in this way. What I've learned is that even the smallest act of kindness can have a ripple effect. It can spread, it can grow, and it can change lives." The crowd listened intently, hanging on every word. Maria's message was clear and powerful, resonating with each person in the room. She spoke of the importance of compassion, of looking out for one another, and of the belief that everyone had the ability to make a difference. It was a message she had always carried in her heart, but now, it was reaching a much larger audience. As the event came to a close, many of the townspeople came up to Maria to thank her for her words. Some shared their own stories of kindness, of how small gestures had helped them through difficult times. Maria smiled and listened, offering encouragement and gratitude in return. She felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that she had made a difference in the lives of these people. Over the next few months, Maria continued her journey, traveling from town to town, spreading her message of kindness and hope. Everywhere she went, people were inspired by her story. Some were moved to volunteer their time to help others, while others began to take small steps toward making their communities better. Maria was amazed by the impact her words had, but she never lost sight of the fact that it was the simple acts of kindness that mattered most. Back at the diner, Maria's absence was felt by many of the regulars who had become accustomed to her warm smile and gentle presence. But they all understood why she had left. They knew that Maria had always dreamed of making a bigger impact, and now, she was doing just that. The diner still stood as a place of comfort for those who needed it, but it was no longer the only place where Maria's kindness could be felt. One day, as she sat in a small cafe between speaking engagements, Maria received a message from Jaden and Maya. They were planning a surprise for her, something special to show their appreciation for all she had done. Maria smiled as she read the message, touched by their thoughtfulness. They had always supported her, but now, they were taking it a step further. When Maria arrived at the diner a few weeks later, she was greeted with a warm welcome. Jaden and Maya had organized a celebration in her honor, inviting the regulars and anyone who had been touched by her kindness. The diner was decorated with balloons and banners that read, "Thank you, Maria." The walls were lined with pictures of the people whose lives she had changed, and there was a table full of cards and letters from those who had been inspired by her work. As Maria walked through the door, she was overwhelmed with emotion. She had never expected such a gesture, and it took her a moment to compose herself. She turned to Jaden and Maya, who were standing nearby, smiling with pride. "You didn't have to do this," Maria said, her voice shaky with emotion. "We wanted to, Maria," Maya replied. "You've given so much to everyone else. This is our way of giving something back to you." Jaden nodded. "You've made a difference in so many lives. We just want you to know how much you mean to us and to everyone who's been touched by your kindness." Maria wiped away a tear as she looked around the room. There, in the faces of the people she had helped, she saw the true reward of her life's work. It wasn't the plagues, the awards, or the recognition. It was the lives she had touched, the hearts she had opened, and the ripple effect of kindness that continued to spread. And in that moment, Maria knew that she had found her true purpose. The world was a better place because of the love and care she had given to others. And no matter where her journey took her next, she would always carry that love with her, sharing it with everyone she met.